to sit back and listen to these next two amazing individuals. I've been kind of like watching and following along myself personally over the last several months, and just amazement in another one of those scenarios. You have to look in the mirror and think, because we don't have to deal with a lot of the issues that some people have to deal with, and accessibility is a major one that doesn't get enough attention, and I'm super glad and amazed by these two individuals. And I'm just so grateful that they're on here today, and I'm so grateful that we heard them on Maritime Noon a couple like last week, I think, and they did an amazing job. They should have their own radio show. Yeah, they're incredible, and I know, Jan, you have a connection to them.
So Dee and we worked together at St. Mary's Boat Club. Dee must have been 12 years old because this was quite a while ago, and I'm a lot older than Dee. So she, you know, I can honestly, I very much remember her coming and just being an amazing instructor out of the gate. She's just one of these people. I think she's an old soul, Dee, who just, you know, has been a bright light in whatever she's done for as long as I've known her. And that's going back, geez, that's got to be almost 15 years now, pretty close, 12 if not. And it's been a joy of joys to watch her and Kevin doing what absolutely, you know, there are conversations, and Chris and I, we try to shine our light on these conversations as often as we possibly can. But this is so critical. And you know, it fills me with absolute pride to know that there are so many people in the community who can give this voice that is so needed. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Dee and Kevin.
Should I let them in, Dave?
Yeah, let them in. Come on in. And it's interesting because I made the contact with them. I know Jan has history there with them too, but I reached out to them kind of like a cold call and just wanted to see if they'd be willing to come hang out with us for Night of Adventure tonight. And they willingly said yes.
Yeah.
Hey, you two.
They're connecting to audio.
Connecting.
Hey.
Connecting.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hey guys.
Happy winter solstice to you.
Same to you folks.
Now, Kevin and Dee, this is so wonderful to have you here. If you could so kindly give us a rundown about what you two are up to.
Yeah.
All right. We created a little slideshow. Is that okay if we run that while we're talking a bit?
Lay it on us.
All right.
All right.
Go ahead, get her going.
Okay.
Down under Google, right?
Here we go.
That.
We're in.
Boom. All right.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah, there we are.
We're still rookies at this. First Google slide presentation.
That's all right though. She did a good job because I had nothing to do with this.
You trying to blame Dee already, Kevin?
No, I think I pre-approved it beforehand and it looks great. Way better than I could do.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for having us on tonight, guys. This is great. And shout out to Seamus. Seamus is my new hero, I really think. So, Seamus, I want to go on an adventure with you someday and we can share stories. So that's cool. Well, my name's Kevin and I live here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I've lived here since coming to university in 1995. I'm a person with a physical disability. I suffered a spinal cord injury at the age of 15. I'm paralyzed from the chest down, but I really kind of forged ahead and done some wonderful things in my life, and I've been very fortunate. And yeah, I keep moving forward. Love the outdoors. Grew up in the country, so it's in my blood.
Where'd you grow up, Kevin?
I grew up in a small town in the Annapolis Valley called Hansport.
Oh, Hansport's beautiful.
So just a small town. I lived on the outskirts of Hansport as well. So so it was even smaller. So yeah, and, just a small rural town.
Now give us the goods about you two meeting. Where's the point of connection here?
That's so funny because I literally just finished captioning our video for our YouTube channel where we tell that story. So do you want to go for it? Do you want me to go
I
for
want
it?
you to introduce yourself first.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Who are you?
Well, you're the celebrity, so
No, go ahead.
I'm just teasing. No, so my name is Dee Osmond, and I was born just outside of London in the United Kingdom, and my parents and I moved to Nova Scotia when I was 12, and I've called Halifax home ever since. And growing up, I loved the outdoors, and I always have. And my number one sport growing up, and I guess still is as an adult, is sailing. So I sailed competitively as a teenager, and then I also became a sailing instructor. And that's actually how I met Jan way back in the day. And then that's how Kevin and I met. So essentially, the long story short is I applied for a position as a sailing instructor with Sail Able, which is Halifax's disabled sailing program. And Kevin at that point was very involved with the organization. And we met, I guess, the day when we were getting the boats ready for the season. And then we became great friends. So we sailed together. So Kevin needs some physical assistance in the boat when racing. So as a coach, I would go in the boat and we entered different regattas and trained together a lot for a year and a half and became great friends. And then we started dating in the fall of 2014.
Amazing. Now, one step back from I want to hear more about what you guys are up to right now, but I want to know more about what it's like sailing together. And if you don't mind explaining a little bit how the mechanics of it all work.
All right. Well, I never sailed in my life before, but kind of the story goes in 2006, I had a chance to go to Vancouver for what's called the Mobility Cup, which is an annual sailing regatta for persons with disabilities. And there was no disabled sailing program here in Halifax. So I ventured out there and got my bum in a boat for the first time and learned how to race. But the boat that we use is called a Martin 16, and it's specially designed for persons with disabilities. So it's safe. It's can have a companion on board with you if you need one. But the cool thing about the boat is the assistive technology that allows it to be adaptable for so many individuals, including myself. So because of the paralysis I have of the chest down, not being able to move my hands, there's systems that are put on the boat where I can blow and suck on one straw to steer the boat and suck and blow on the other straw to sheet in and sheet out. And pretty much I can sail the boat independently.
No, that is absolutely amazing to me, and it's incredible.
I got to take Rick Mercer sailing.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that happening actually.
Yeah, so that's a good link to put in there because that kind of shows it all, what it's all about if anyone's interested. And I'm still involved a bit with the organization. I actually bought my own Martin 16, which was a huge step in 2014. So that really opens a lot of opportunities for us to sail in many places throughout the province. So haven't got out of it this year because of COVID, but we're looking forward to getting back into it this summer and continuing our passion.
For sure.
Now you guys are doing it all. You're out, you're hiking, you're exploring, you are camping, you're doing really, I mean, like we take huge inspiration from following along with all your crazy adventures. But I mean, I guess like the perspective I think that's so needed is you're shining lights on the fact that, many of the places that we sort of take advantage of don't necessarily hold to the same standard that, you guys need it to. I guess like in all your adventures, if you were to give Nova Scotia a grade, let's give it a grade, 1 out of 10, 10 being, it's doing pretty well. Where do you think things are right now in terms of accessibility?
I guess it depends what your definition of accessibility is. I think sometimes that can be jumbled in, but when it comes to physical accessibility, which is usually the barriers that Dee and I face when I face, so I can only really speak of those barriers. But I mean, how would you describe it, Dee, do you think?
It's hard because there are definitely a lot of subsets of it, but from like parks and recreation, I guess is a good approach to take. I definitely think things are getting there. We've been able to enjoy some beautiful experiences in Nova Scotia that I would say would not have been possible 5 years ago.
one of the examples is on the screen right now. You can see with the beach mat in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and that's at Inverness Beach. So that's one of, I call it the most accessible beach in all of the world that I've ever been in. And I've luckily been traveling a lot, and Dee and I were able to visit there this summer. And with those beach mats and chairs to allow you to go in the water, I mean, those things are, there's a nice picture of us exploring locally, floating in the water. So that's been awesome. And those parks, and we see more and more, Martin, different parks creating accessibility, and people have reached out to us over the last few months within government to ask our opinion. So that's what's really exciting, because we've been fighting for this for a long time to get first voice when it comes to making these decisions, people who use it, people who want to try these adventures. So we've had a lot of fun, not just doing adventures, but educating as well.
Absolutely. And to answer your question, Jan, I think sometimes the biggest barriers can be getting to the place to be able to enjoy what's out there. And transportation can be a huge barrier in Nova Scotia. We're a rural province, and it's very difficult or impossible to get the transportation necessary to make some of these adventures happen if you aren't able to get around in a vehicle of your own.
Yeah, that's fair. And now I guess too, guys, I mean, I'm seeing these pictures here and I love this one. But, you know, I guess too, a question I'd have is, you know, I suppose summertime makes it a lot easier to get out and do these things. What about wintertime? What does that look like?
I would say, here, look at this.
There we go.
We were right on cue. It's like we planned this, John. We planned this. Well, like everyone, it's harder to get outside in the winter. There are many barriers, but being in a wheelchair faces a lot of barriers. Obviously, for me specifically, the cold is a huge barrier. I mean, because of my spinal cord injury and not being able to be, I can be mobile, but I can't move my arms, can't keep myself warm. So I just have to be careful how long I'm outside in the cold. So as you can see in the middle, we escape away from winter as much as possible to get somewhere warm, to get a reprieve. But as you can see in these other pictures, I mean, we find other things to do. We are close to the oval. We love doing that in the wintertime because it's quite accessible. I can burn out on the oval and do some 360s and pretend I'm a superstar. We go to the park. We have dogs who have friends who have dogs. So we go to the parks, Point Pleasant or Shuby or local things. And we just try to make do like everybody else. I mean, if there's 25, 35 centimeters of snow, we know we're not going to get out the next day. But we still try to do as much as we can to enjoy it and stay warm and be safe. And Dee really helps facilitate that, because for me, I am lucky to have someone to be able to go on those adventures, because I can't do them all independently and safely. So yeah, we try to just do as much as we can locally and get through it like everybody else. But today's the solstice, so it's all uppity up from here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So tell us, I mean, you know, if you were to look at the old 2021 wish list, what are some of the things that you are trying to knock off this year?
2020. Oh my God, you go ahead there.
Here, one sec. We prematurely ended our PowerPoint. And now the mouse is mouse. The other mouse, sorry. There's two mice. It's really complicated.
A lot of mouses.
Should I just do this?
Yeah.
So it's hard to know what 2021 will bring, but reflecting back on this year, we've never explored our province as much as we did this summer. And I think that was a combination of being cooped up in the spring and really having that energy to explore to the fullest while we could, as well as not saving up or not planning or figuring that out to plan for that winter getaway, I guess, which is typically what we do. So it was really, really fun. We went to Cape Breton for 3 days, 4 days, and this is at Inverness Beach. We went camping one night. That's at the top corner. We hiked the Skyline Trail. We hiked another trail, which was a disaster. So I think
we went glamping.
And we went glamping. Yes, of course. So I think we just want to see what else is out there, like within our little Atlantic bubble, if we're able to. Like we've never been to Kedgie together, or what is it? The one in New Brunswick.
Kedgie McQuack.
Coogee We've never been there. So just kind of exploring more parks and opportunities that are out there, I guess.
We'll be staying in the Atlantic bubble for a while, I think.
Yeah, well, I think we all are, but thankfully the Atlantic bubble's got lots of gems.
Oh, we're learning so much as we get more into this hiking and our Instagram and YouTube, and we get comments and suggestions. So we love that people come and give us ideas, because Nova Scotia is so rural and there's so many cool things out there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, folks, you're doing amazing things. And it fills me with so much joy to follow along with all the things that you're doing. You got a lot of folks here who are watching. I mean, what are some things that, as a community, we all can do to help one another further what you're doing?
Take this one first.
Do you want to go for it?
All right. Well, I think, a lot of it comes down with like accessibility with respect to recreation. If people can get there, they can make the choice of how adventurous they want to get. But if they can't get there, parking lots might not be accessible. We've had issues with gates being across. Can't get through the gate if you're in a chair because you can't walk around. So just think about design. But the biggest thing is attitude. I keep coming back to attitude because I've been in a chair for 29 years, and really it's the barrier that's the hardest one to tackle. And once you tackle attitudes and get people on board and see the advantage of it, all the physical stuff it need be or safety stuff can be put in place afterwards. It's 2020. We know how to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
We just need to change barriers, change attitudes.
And I think like one example of this can be like we find there can sometimes be a stigma around hiking that like the more like off the beaten path, the more risky, the more like outlandish the terrain, the more accomplished you are or the more successful you are at hiking. And I think this can sometimes affect like the attitudes around the accessibility of hiking. And just because, you might be able to hike Cape Split, well, we just spent 3 hours in Point Pleasant Park. I think we all have different ideas of what hiking is. And I think that for anyone, any kind of hiking is valid and should be celebrated. And I think too that I know there's a lot of push to keep everything kind of as it is and not take away from the natural beauty in some places, which is a really tough balance. What if only people who have the physical abilities to even get to those places are the ones that are able to see it. And they're the ones that say, well, it can't be, it needs to be left the way it is. I think that's kind of a barrier that would be really interesting to challenge the way we look at things and the way that things are designed. And I don't think anyone who's looking at accessibility is asking you to like pave, a very intense hiking trail and bulldoze it straight through the mountain, but just these little things that can be done to make things accessible. Just open your mind to how it could really help a lot of people.
Oh, that's beautifully said, Dee. That's really, yeah, and you as well, Kevin. I honestly, guys, thank you so much for being part of tonight and honestly for what you're doing. We are really, again, and Dave said it beautifully at the beginning of this, this is all about community. And, I think, Kevin, you nail it. It's all about attitudes, and accessibility begins here, doesn't it? And thank you so much. So folks, if you have yet to follow along, I highly recommend you check out what Dee and Kevin are doing. We'd love to have you back again.
Well, we got to do a shameless plug. I mean, we have
it.
So our latest video just released where we did a question and answer about many topics from our folks, and we're pretty proud of it. It's for the holiday season, our last video of the year. So we had a really fun year. So check it out at Accessible Adventures on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you two promised to come back sometime, right, and share more stories.
Anytime, pals. Anytime. Yeah, anytime. We'd love to go hiking with you guys sometimes. You guys might be able to think of some places that we could hang out and go for a drink or something at the end of the hike.
I'm into that, man. Yes.
Sounds good, guys.
Okay,
Keep doing what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
That's great.
I take over?
Well,
So great.
Wow.
yeah, that was amazing.
I mean, look, I'll say it again. As long as I've known Dee, she's been a stone cold superstar.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I love that idea around attitudes. And I think we all need a bit of an adjustment there because we're just so used to our own things. It's just switching attitudes to not feel sorry for people and not feel like these things, like just, Kevin's a badass guy. Just, has such a good attitude and outlook on life. And I think we could all learn a lot from, the way he lives his life and apply